沙no Yuta is a visual novel by Nitroplus with horror elements. The original plot is written by Gen Urobuchi. A 3-issue comic book based on沙no Yuta, called Sa's Song, has been produced by IDW Publishing. The issues were released from February through April 2011. In 2009, an English fan translation patch was released. Later, in 2013, JAST USA released an English localization using an improved version of the fan translation. Plotline: Fuminari Sakisaka is a young medical student, whose life is changed when he gets in a traffic accident which kills his parents and leaves him heavily injured. Fuminari undergoes experimental brain surgery to save his life, but the surgery has an unintended side effect: it creates a form of agnosia, causing his senses to become warped. He perceives the world as a hellish nightmare with a black sky and buildings covered in pulsating flesh, where all the streets and building interiors are splattered with blood, giant organs and cartilage. Ordinary people appear to him as grotesque, giant grub-like monsters with a hideous stench, and even food that he used to like now tastes utterly disgusting. As he contemplates suicide in the hospital, Fuminari meets a beautiful, human-looking child among the flesh-covered walls. She introduces herself as Sama, and is apparently looking for her father. Fuminari does not want to be separated from Sama, and asks her to live with him. She agrees. However, just as Fuminari sees normal things as monstrously twisted abominations, ordinary observers are able to see that Saya is actually a hideous creature not from Earth. She is rarely ever seen by anyone but Fuminari, and those that do see her are immediately killed and consumed by her, usually after being driven insane by her hideous appearance. Though her true form is never directly shown, it is described in text, and she is similar in appearance to the misshapen blob-like monstrosities which haunt Fuminari's world. She likens herself to a dandelion seed landing on a desert. The meaning of her life is, in her own words, to make the desert blossom. She learned everything about humanity from her father, an eccentric biomedical scientist named Masahiko Oegai, the first person to interact with Saya. She finds out the motive of human reproduction is love, and the process is carried out by females. Consequently, she considers herself as a girl, looking for love to prepare for the final reproduction. However, because of her grotesque appearance, she had no chance to succeed, until she met Fuminari. After her first contact died, she stayed in the hospital to continue her study and to look for the next relationship with a human being, which unfortunately results in a local urban legend about haunting in the hospital. Fuminari's experience also provides her the chance to learn the skills of modifying brains and bodies of human beings. The truth is revealed when Fuminari comes home to see Sarah eating the slime-covered corpse of Oemi, a girl he knows, which appears as a yellow-green jelly-like thing in Fuminari's eyes. The smell and texture was described by Fuminari as herb-like scent, looks like a variety of succulent fruits. When he tries it, he actually finds the human flesh delicious due to his twisted senses. Endings: there are 3 endings to the visual novel, depending on the choices that the player makes during the course of the game. Ending 1, Sao helps Fuminari return to normal, but suddenly leaves because she does not want to reveal her true form to Fuminari. Fuminari contacts the police, is charged with murder, and becomes confined in a psychiatric hospital for the rest of his life. Sao visits Fuminari once and, refusing to let Fuminari see her and hear her real voice, communicates using text messages in a cell phone passed through an opening in the door. Fuminari confesses his love and promises to comfort her at any time. Sao leaves to search for her father, whom she believes could help her go back to where she came, and Fuminari continues to wait for her eventual return in his cell. It is implied that the two never meet each other again. In this ending he is not mutated nor is she killed. Ending 2, Fuminari accepts what has happened to him and decides to remain the way he is to stay with Saya. To keep what has happened a secret, Fuminari decides to kill Kaji by pushing him down a dried-up well at Masahiko Oegai's abandoned house in the mountains. However, Kaji is saved by Dr. Ryako Tanbo, and they discover Oegai's log with information of Saya. Kaji returns with plans to kill Fuminari in vengeance, and Ryako offers to help him. After getting Fuminari's location by blackmailing him with information of Saya, the duo enter to kill Fuminari, and in the ensuing struggle Kaji kills a hideously mutated Ya while Fuminari mortally wounds Ryako. Before dying, Ryako, using liquid nitrogen, inflicts a fatal wound to Saya. Realizing he is going to lose Saya, Fuminari loses all will to live and commits suicide. Saya uses her last strength in order to crawl to Fuminari's body while being repeatedly hit with an iron pipe by Kaji. She dies soon after reaching with him. After everything he went through, Kaji's mind shatters, he is left with delusions and paranoia, constantly plagued by nightmares of his deceased friends and vivid hallucinations of Ryako. He purchases a single bullet for his revolver, implying that if his nightmares become unbearable he will commit suicide. Ending 3, the events in this ending are similar to the previous one, except Kaji does not receive help from Ryako and attempts to kill Fuminari by himself. Without Ryako's interference, Saya and Fuminari kill Kaji together. Afterwards, it turns out that Saya has reached the last stage and ultimate goal of her life, reproduction. Saya releases a spore-like matter into the atmosphere, a mutating agent aimed at humans, created by researching the human genome obtained during sex with Fuminari. The agent is spread across the globe by updrafts, slowly turns the entire human population into members of Saya's species. The end of the story is seen from Ryako's perspective, and it is implied that Fuminari will see beauty in the world once again since it will be filled with her kind. Characters: Fuminari Sakisaka, voiced by Hikaru Midorikawa, the protagonist of the game. A medical school student, he suffers a near-fatal traffic accident which kills his parents and leaves his perception of life permanently altered. As he wades through a world gone berserk of flesh and blood, he seeks the affection of the only thing he sees as normal, a mysterious girl named Saya, whom he falls madly in love with. Over time, due to Saya's influence, Fuminari views normal people with apathetic disdain and becomes willing to kill others without remorse, with only Saya and later, as exceptions. Over the course of the events, he gradually becomes a villain of the story, ruthless killer and cannibal, finding human flesh delicious through his twisted senses. In American comic book release, he's known as Josh. Saya, voiced by Noko Takano, Saya is a being from another dimension who materialized in this universe for the sole purpose of reproduction. She has no memories of where she came from and is guided only by her instincts. Due to Fuminari's condition, he perceives her as a little young girl in a white dress, but in actuality she is some sort of amorphous, tentacled, fleshy abomination that emits a putrid stench. She preys on creatures of all sizes, from cats to human beings, typically killing them by snapping their necks or disembowelment through some unknown means, and then feasting on their internal organs. She is apparently capable of projecting a strong acid which she uses to partially digest her food before consuming it, and, in one case, to infiltrate a house by melting the glass of a window. Her true form is never fully revealed, as she immediately kills and consumes any third-party observers, and notably because her visage is incomprehensible to humans, rendering them insane. The small amount of information regarding her actual form is gleaned entirely from in-game descriptions, which themselves are rather vague and never go into detail. Kaji Tanu, voiced by Yasunari Matsumoto, Fuminari's friend. After Fuminari's accident, he has been trying to help Fuminari's life get back to normal. However, after Kaji is almost killed by Fuminari and learns the truth of Fuminari's new character, Kaji directly confronts Fuminari's actions and attempts to kill him. Oemi Takahata, voiced by Hyosei, Kaji's girlfriend and US best friend. After Fuminari's accident, she has become worried for US sake. After Fuminari blatantly rejects Ya, Oemi investigates by going to Fuminari's house. Inside Fuminari's house, Oemi is killed by Saya and eaten by Saya and Fuminari. Yatsukiba, voiced by Mio Yasuda, a friend of Fuminari's who has a crush on him. Since his accident, she had been worried and heartbroken at his sudden change of attitude towards the world. When she goes to investigate the disappearance of Oemi, Yu is captured by Saya. Yu is subjected to an experiment by Saya and becomes genetically altered into the same type of creature as Saya after over 20 hours of hideous transformation. Fuminari was then able to view Yu as he originally did afterwards. However, the change caused Yu unbearable pain and she begged Kaji to kill her later in the story. However, Kaji's mind snaps from the sight of her monstrous form and he beats her to death with a rusty iron pipe in his horror and confusion. As the first ending takes place before Yu is captured and mutated by Saya, Yu isn't mutated or killed in that ending. Ryako Tanbo, voiced by Mizuki Sega, the physician in charge of Fuminari's condition. She becomes suspicious that Fuminari has been hiding something during his routine checkups after he recovers from his injuries. Soundtrack, made by ZIZZ Studio. Schizophrenia, Sabbath, Seek, Spookyscape, Song of Sanoi, Song of Saya 2, Sin, Sunset, Shapeshift, Scare Shadow, Scream, Savage, Silent Sorrow, Song of Saya, sung by Kaneko Ita. Shoes of Glass, sung by Kaneko Ita. References. External links, Saya no Yuta, Song of Saya, Saya no Yuta at vndb.org, Saya no Yuta at the Internet Movie Database.